Hey, welcome to week 7 of the VDL. This is the week 7 power rankings with me, Beastista, and
And me, Otto. We're
so
gonna
yeah,
enjoy this time.
oh yeah, so we have another week without Saki, but hopefully we can get a pretty good one in. So I guess we can start right off with the first match, which is the Tirana Tartar Sauces versus the Old English Ice Cubes. So what did you think of the match?
Yeah, it was really solid match, especially from Saki's side. The Reiku with the bulldoze with the telepathy Gardevoir was something that was very surprising to me. Like I helped Gert a little bit, figured out the matchup, and I was like, wow, Crook looks really good here. And if you look at the team, it actually does look really good, except for the bulldoze tech that was really smart from Saki, and then making Gardevoir outspeed Crook made it very hard for the Ice Cube's original plan.
Yeah, the turn one loss of Crocodile game one was definitely seemed like a really big swing in Saki's favor.
Yeah, and then I felt like the adjustment for game two was a little bit wasn't very successful on Gert's side, in my opinion. I feel like he had a very smart idea of using the Aselgar to you know basically kill something with the final gambit. But in my opinion, he should have gone for the Reiku because if you look at what Saki brought, like if Reiku went down, it would be very hard for Saki's team for his team to react. And I think Gert just didn't realize that in time. But it was really well played, I think, from both sides, and Saki again brought some really spicy tech that swing the match in his favor.
Oh yeah, I agree. The bulldoze game one was a really big deal. Not really spicy, but the Perish song on the Polytoad was very powerful as usual. But the physical Moltres with Howl on the Raikou was cool. The metal sound on the with
Yeah,
what's it called throat spray on the Bronzong was really cool. Definitely had some cool techs and yeah, it was definitely a fun match, even though it ended up being 2-0 in the favor of this Tirana Tartar sauces.
yeah, for sure.
Um,
When I said the Reiko tech, I felt was a little bit spicy too because like I think in that position, it's one thing that will never cross your mind at the like in the moment. Like you're not gonna expect the Reiko to be speed controlling the match, especially next to Gardevoir with Bulldoze. It's something that I don't think it's the first thing in people's heads. So when you see that lead, you imagine like five different things that they can do, but not necessarily the Bulldoze with the telepathy. So I felt like that was very smart because sometimes to me like the smartest techs are the ones that they mislead people like you see Moltres and Comfy, like you think they're gonna go for the Drainy Kiss thing and then all of a sudden something completely different. I feel like these are very smart things to do, and I felt like the Reiko Gardevoir combo there did something like that. Like you didn't know it, like that was very unexpected that they would go for Bodos with the telepathy, at least for me.
oh, I
So
agree
yeah.
entirely, and not only that, it also the Raikou just looked like it was in really bad position with the
Yeah.
crocodile in front of it. So it's like, if I was on Gert's side, I would have expected a protector switch out on Raikou, and best case or like worst case scenario on my side, Gert's side would have been maybe like a reflect or something, but it definitely was not expecting. I would not have expected crocodile to die that turn before he got an attack off.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
okay, so with that, I guess we can go to the next match. The next match
Yeah.
is the Welsh Laidlords versus the Sussex Stabilizers. So I'll just go with my notes. So I have some notes on this game, and basically my notes are Bouffalot is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I feel like the Sableyes had a little bit of trouble dealing enough damage to the bulky threats of Tapu Fini and the Bouffalant on the sides of the Well-Lords. And in addition, those Pokemon were putting a lot of offensive pressure onto the Sableyes team. Is there
So
anything that you thought was very interesting about the match?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like Bufflant was really good in this match. Again, it's another match that I talked with Matrix about before he played. So I was a little bit already in the know of what he was gonna bring, and I felt like it was really cool to see him using the setup Flygon set because it's something like I feel like Flygon is very underused in this format because Dragon Dance is such a good move and it's already on a good speed tier. And with the Dragon Dance you get to decent attack stat too. So I feel like seeing Matrix use Flygon on game two was really cool because like it seems like he's finally getting have like finding the courage to start using this mon because it is a little bit dangerous because like, any ice move is gonna kill it, but if it sets up, it becomes a menace.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I think the Flygon is a fairly new addition
Yeah,
from some transactions, and it's definitely nice to see because I think a lot of people really like the Pokemon in the general sense, and it's just kind of a little bit sad that Garchomp has always kind of been outshadowing it, but I feel like for its tier, it's very solid Pokemon.
yeah, and again, like I agree, but if you compare Flygon and Garchomp, like I think Flygon has something that Garchomp doesn't have, which is access to Dragon Dance, which is in my opinion a better move than like Swords Dance because it gives you both a speed boost and the attack boost. So like it's a really good positioning too. Like you lead fast fake out with Dragon Dance, you fake out whatever can kill your mon, and you get the Dragon Dance off. Then you're like you have spread earthquakes, you know, threatening everything on the field. Like I feel like this is very like in terms of course Garchomp is a much better Pokemon, no question there. But in terms of setup, this option that Flygon offers, I feel like pretty good and should be used more.
Yeah, that's fair. I definitely agree with that. Um, so yeah, is there anything else about the match that you found interesting or you want to talk about?
I liked seeing Jigglypuff come in
Yeah,
game two from Sen's side.
yeah, no, the Jigglypuff has been very impressive. Like that is a Pokemon that I have every time I see it in draft, I'm like, why would I ever get it? And
Yeah,
Sam has definitely brought it multiple times, and every time it's brought it, I've been impressed with it.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's cool to see people using unorthodox mons in an effective way.
Yeah.
I mean, he lost, but it was still cool and did work. It didn't. It's not that it was like dead weight on the field.
Oh yeah, no, like Sam crushed me one of the games that we played because almost exclusively because of Jigglypuff.
Yeah.
So with that, I guess we can go to the next match, which is my match, the Stinglike Rabombi and the Drowsy Dracozolt. I guess I'll start. So pretty much this match kind of um, came down to Turtonator and me kind of getting in a position to try to counter it and just missing on the opportunities. So basically, game one, I had it encored into body press, not body press, into iron defense, and I couldn't protect my Sableye well enough, and then they were able to sweep me when they were undone with their iron defense encore. And then game two, I had the Turtonator encored into body press in front of a ghost Pokemon, and I just couldn't do enough damage because of my move selection of the game. I definitely think game one I could have probably won if I would have switched out Sableye. I was thinking about it. I almost switched it out to protect it so I could continue encoring the Turtonator, but I ended up choosing not to, and ended up losing me the game. And then yeah, game two, I had Shadow Sneak as my move. If I had something like Shadow Ball or Nightshade, I think I end up winning that match. But Turtonator is really hard for my team because it has both Shell Armor and
Yeah.
Iron Defense, and I don't have many special attackers. I almost brought Guzzlord to counter it, and I decided to last minute to switch my Guzzlord out for Skunk Tank because I wanted Skunk Tank for different Pokemon.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like this match was cool. I never knew like when a Pokemon ran out of PP, that it would just the encore would fail on that mon. I thought it was still gonna work and the Pokemon would struggle, you know. But it was cool to learn that that it's not the case, and it actually made me think about, you know, when genning mons, if it's more optimal to gen like, you know, Turtonator and Registeel and these mons that are going for, you know, iron defenses all the time. If it's more optimal to run to generate them with less PP, because then you can, you know, break out of the encore earlier and do whatever you want to do. So that's something that came to my mind watching that match and was cool to see. And I also liked the most of the sets that Masenko brought to this match. Like the Pangoro was really cool. The Turtonator obviously was really good and not surprising. I think people use it like that all the time, but was still really well positioned and really well prepped for this match. So yeah, I felt like I agree with you. Like you could have won game one, I think, but game two, like it felt like you were always, you know, in not as favorable position in my opinion, and then that Turtonator just did what it was meant to do.
Well, yeah. So game two, I kind of decided to go. I kind of did this strategy where I'm like, okay, the plan is to get Sableye and Turtonator as the last two Pokemon, and encore it into Body Press. And so that was my plan. It just did not work out as well as I was hoping because of my damage output and encore not working in onto a Pokemon that has no PP left.
Yeah,
But yeah, no. So it was definitely a good match. They definitely had some cool sets. You know, I did a couple, you know, interesting sets, but not they didn't work out as well as I'd hope. And I ended up losing the match, and the Dracozols have a pretty good chance. Well, are in the hunt for playoffs after that win.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, it's cool. The playoffs race is shaping up to be interesting.
Yes, and we do have slides at the end. We can discuss them a little bit about the playoff race, but with that, let's go to the next match, which is your match against
Yeah,
the Rolled Gold Pretzels.
yeah. This match, yeah. So this match was interesting. Like before the actual match, Gumi and I were, you know, talking in the chat, and I was trying to make him believe that I was gonna bring like the best team I could, because I wanted him to bring the best team he could. Because to me, like I didn't really care about getting the first seed, but I really wanted to know how Gumi was gonna counter my team. So that was my idea there. I was gonna bring some meme set with, you know, the belly drum O-ring, but I wanted to make sure that Gumi brought the best he could. And I'm not sure if he did it or if he's just saying that he did to try and counter my counter my strategy. But if it did, it worked, and if not, it was just me trying to feature the belly drum mooring, which I said I was gonna do since the draft. So that was the whole plan here, and I made a team builder for this match, just trying to show like what was the idea and how I was planning on trying to make Walring work. Like, don't get me wrong, like it was a really bad match for Walring in my opinion, because even though it's really good against Garchomp, like it's terrible against the Ludicolo. Like even the Sharpedo destroys it with close combats. So it wasn't the best match for Walring, but I wanted to try it anyway. And I said this in the team builder, like if Gumi brings Ditto, like I have to watch out for it because it's just a very hard counter to my entire team. You know, because basically my team was centered around Walring with the plan B of Thunderous, and basically Ditto beats both. So I was like, well, if he brings Ditto, maybe I don't lead these two. But once I saw the team preview, I actually hesitated a little bit to bring the Walring, but I was like, well, I'm doing this just for fun, so let's do the Walring anyway. And yeah, Ditto came in the back and just copied the the belly drum set. It took me a little bit of time to figure out it was Scarf, because in my mind the Ditto was always gonna be the Quick Claw version, just because, you know, if the point was to beat Thunderous, like you don't want to be locked into Sludge Bomb because it's not stab, and you don't want to be locked into Thunderbolt because you can't hit the opposing Thunderous. So to me, like the Scarf didn't really make sense, and I was the whole time thinking it was Quick Claw. which was a little bit of a misplay from me because I should have realized it when the copy Roaring was clicking liquidation all the time. But yeah, and then yeah, I had a couple of other ideas that I wanted to test. So I test them, use this match to test them, like the end game Delmise, the Grimsnarl healing the Thunderers with Thunderwave. Those were all techs that I had in my mind during the season, and I just wanted to try them out. And this was a match that I was like, oh well, maybe I'll try them in this match, and it could have worked. It's just I feel like not only the did Gumi bring the perfect counters to my strategy, but I also didn't play as well. And there was a little bit of misfortune too, like in game one when I got crit with the Iron Head on the Delmise. I, that basically put it in range of the air slash, and then I couldn't poltergeist the tornadoes to see the Wackenberry. Had I seen the Wackenberry, I probably wouldn't have led the Thunderers on game two because it's pointless. Thunderers was there just to basically beat the tornadoes and pave the way for the Delmise to win, but it wouldn't do that because it was Wakan anyways. So yeah, but to be fair, like even without the crits, there was a really high chance that I would flinch because it was a combo of Iron Head and Air Slash onto the Delmise in game one. So even though the crit was unfortunate, there was a very good chance that I was gonna flinch anyway. Yeah, and I think that's it about this match, at least for me. Like, was a fun match. I didn't want to bring my best team, and it was interesting to see the Ditto coming and doing a lot of work.
Yeah, so that was definitely I definitely enjoyed the match. There's definitely I think you had a pretty good overview. I think one of the big things I was surprised about at some point was Sharpedo's crunch into a Colberberry Latias, killing it at like 60%. I was very surprised at that because Latias is pretty bulky Pokemon in the general sense, and the Colberberry, halving the damage. That was one of the big surprising things I had. But other than that, yeah, like I said, I was definitely cool to see some of the spicy tech on your side, and then Ditto finally getting some action.
Yeah, this Latches, like I've usually ran it way bulkier than this time because I usually run a setup set with Calm Mind, so it's basically like as fast as it needs to be, then max HP and as much defense as I can, and then use the setup to beef the special attack and the special defense. But this set was not like that. I wanted the heal pulse Larias to help heal the Warren after it got damaged. So the latches was pretty free. It was like, I think like almost max speed, and then we had some HP investment, but not much, and the defense is not as good as the special defense. So I think that's why the crunch, especially because it was also life orb, I calced most of the stuff with focus sash on the Sharpedo because it is such a good one for focus sash. But I mean, the life orb was really strong there too, and yeah, it did a lot of damage with even through the Cobra Berry.
So with that, I guess we can go to the next match, which is the Massachusetts Manitans versus the Summerville Scragglies. The Scragglies win 2-0.
Yeah.
So I think both game one and game two, if I recall correctly, the Scragglies decided to lead Stoutland NDD with a Life Orb NDD, and basically both they just seem very impressive damage wise into the entirety of the team that the Manitans brought. NDD had Expanding Force and then Mystical Fire to deal with Pokemon like Celesteela, and then the Stoutland had Ice Fang and Wild Charge to deal with Pokemon like Reuniclus, not Runerigus, and Celesteela. And so they did a bunch of damage. And yeah, the Manitans weren't able to kind of get too much offense and weren't able to get much speed control because I think they weren't able to get Trick Room up.
Yeah. No, that was a very very well played match by Tyler, in my opinion, and at first on team preview, like when I saw it, I was like, "Wow, how does this team deal with Celesteela?" Because like there was no fire types and no electric types on in team preview, and I was feeling like Celesteela could have a few day there because if it was bulky enough to withstand the non-stab attacks to a point where it sets up like I think it could become a monster, especially with the snowballing effect of the beast boost. But um, actually, the mystical fires from Indeed did a lot of damage to it, and like I feel like in game one it was a little bit unfortunate the crits because I don't think it mattered in the end. Like, but at least would have been a kill for to tacos because it could be able to deal with the stout one because the stout one was I think intimidated, um, or it was -2 attack. I don't remember now, but I remember it wasn't full attack, and like there was a crit that basically put it in range of the wild charge. If it wasn't for the crit mystical fire, I think the Celesteela would have gotten one attack off, and it could have finished off the Stoutland. So that was a little bit unfortunate there, but still, like I think there was no there was no point during the match that Tyler was at risk or anything. So it was really well played by Tyler, really well prepped. It was surprising to me to see how much damage, even though I played with Ndidi last season. It was very interesting to see like how much damage Ndidi was doing to a Celesteela with Mystical Fire, which is not a strong move per se.
Oh, I agree with that entirely. Like when I saw the matchup, I definitely thought Celesteela seemed very good, and Celesteela pretty much did nothing in either of the games, which is very impressive on on a team that seems like it doesn't have many good answers into that Pokemon specifically.
Yeah, for sure. And there was a in game two, like it's one thing that it's a little hard in this format that we're playing, and especially in VDL, where I think the high tiers are so expensive. Like Taco had to use his Celesteela, which is like his strongest Pokemon, to use a move like Wild Guard. Like that's kind of like it's great that Celesteela gets Wild Guard, but having to sacrifice your strongest Pokemon just for Wild Guard is kind of like it's not ideal. So I feel like in this format that we play, we can't afford to spend that much on support. Like I have this problem with Grimmsnarl all the time because there's so many good support moves, but at the same time, like I want to be using my Grimmsnarl offensively because it is my tier 1 Pokemon. So I wanna I want it to do work. So yeah, it's something that I think it's gonna be something that I learned from this season, like trying and especially in this format where we make the good mons more expensive. I think next season at least I'm gonna focus on finding a tier 1 that is you know dedicated to do damage and not necessarily to just be supportive.
Yeah, I can understand that, and it definitely can do a lot of work, but having a good support mon is also pretty good. So I can see the argument on either side, but I guess we might as well get to the next match, which is the Alexandria Arcanines versus the Beantown Binacles, and this was a exciting match. So what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was. I really really liked the match, and both teams I felt like played really well. Like Lurantis is a Pokemon that I always underestimated in drafts, and Theo's performance with it throughout the season has been making me want to draft it sometime. Because it's such a flexible mon. Like on paper you don't think it is that flexible, but when you start looking, like when you start prepping against it, like it can do work in Trick Room, it can do work in Tailwind because it's not that slow. You can do superpower things, and when it does superpower things, it can become a wall because it's also bulking up the defenses. It is already somewhat bulky, so and mono grass is not horrible defensively. So I feel like it's a mon that's surprising me a lot this season. And on the Alexandria Arcanine side, I felt like the Silvally with the explosion was was really interesting. Like it's not something new, but it was interesting to see because when you like I wouldn't expect to, like when you bring like a you know explosion mon next to a ghost mon, you like okay that's something that you will be expecting, but I would never expect him to explode his Sylvie next to the Aldina, not even protect it. Was a kind of like a hail mary play that worked really well. It was very risky because I think it was Hitmonlee that could have protected,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
yeah. I think at some point the Binacles were about to click protect and then switched it
yeah
right at switched their decision like moments before time ran out and ended up getting punished for it.
yeah. So it was very interesting match, and yeah, like it's like I think Theo has been playing really well with these mons that are kind of underestimated in draft, like Barascute and Lurantis, and he's doing so well that's like I mean Lurantis for sure is a mon that is on my list for future drafts, and Barascute is also almost getting there. Like when I prepped against Theo, like Barascuda was the one that was giving the most headaches because it's so fast and can do has such good coverage and hits hard too, like fast and hard. So it is a one that when you have it on your team, maybe you don't, or when you have the option of drafting it, maybe you don't think too much of it, but once you start prepping against it, you can see like how many choices it makes you, it forces you to make.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely seems like it's been pretty impressive and definitely a Pokemon I've probably frequently underestimated how good it is. So on this match, one of the things I was pretty interested in was game three. Came was such a nail biter. So it ended up in Trick Room. Um, the Binacles thought their Volcarona was safe in front of an Escavalier, so they're like, "Oh, I can just one shot the Escavalier with a fire move," and the Escavalier had Razor Claw or no, Razor Shell. My had Razor Shell, and was able to one shot the Volcarona, putting
Yeah,
the Arcanines in an amazing position. And the game ended up coming down to basically the Binacles needing a flinch on the Escavalier in order to be able to just get the win, and they were able to get there, and it was incredibly close. And I was going into the match. I actually was spoiled at the end results, and so I was for a large part of game three. I'm like, how does the Binacles get out of this?
yeah,
And it was such a such a close victory on their side for game three.
yeah. No, for sure, and that was interesting because game one was I think was very well played by Binacles, and like it didn't seem like it seemed like it was gonna be very dominant throughout the entire match, but then game two there was the explosion thing and that end game I think was like Barascuda and Hitmonlee against Rillaboom's Cavalier. I think that was it,
Mm-hmm.
where the Rillaboom picked up the knockout on Hitmonlee with the Grassy Glide. Like I feel like that was really well played by Dan too, because in that position, like I think your instinct is to Grassy Glide the Watermon, but if he did that, that was the incorrect play for sure, because then the close combat was always a two-hit KO on this Cavalier, so you had to get rid of the Hitmonlee there, and that was really well played by Dan. That end game, which talking like that seems easy, but everybody knows like when you're playing this, sometimes you don't see these end game scenario as clearly, and I feel like Dan managed to see it. And then
Yeah.
yeah, the game three thing that you said, I completely agree, was very tight in the end, and I think Theo played for his win condition and he won.
Yeah. All right, so with that, let's go to the next one, which is the Royal Kingdras versus the Pogi Porygons. So I believe that this match does not have a video, as far as I know.
Yeah, I didn't
But
see it.
based on the team report, it looks like the Kingdras were able to get out Trick Room game one, and were pretty much swept with their Reuniclus. And then game two, it seems like Reggie Steele and the Scrafty on the side of the Kingdras kind of put in a lot of work. Reggie Steele has been the MVP for the Kingdras this season, and it seemed to continue to do work.
No, for sure. Yeah, they played really well with this Reggie Steele. Like I didn't see too many matches from them, but the ones I've seen, like they were very solid in their game plan. Like it's usually more of a strict game plan. There isn't too much, um, or doesn't seem to be too much improvisation. It seems like they always come with this solid game plan and they execute it perfectly, and it works out for them. So yeah, really well done, but from Royal Kingdom's side.
Oh yeah, no, the Kingdras have been crazy. I think every time they've won a match, they've 2-0'd. And so their differential is very high for the record because they've just had every match they lost has been 1-2s, and every game they've won has been 2-0s, I think, or almost everyone, if not literally everyone. And so it's definitely been very interesting to watch them with this season.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess there's not much else to talk about it since. Oh,
Was like not even a 2-0, was a 2-0 without losing a single mon, right?
yes.
That was very impressive.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I guess there's not much else to talk about this match since
Yep.
it was not we didn't get to watch it since there's no video of it. So we can get to the next one, which is the Shenandoah Sun Warriors versus the Brisbane Blaziken's.
Yep.
Uh, so you do want to start, or I can?
Yeah, you can.
So I know game one, um, the big turn was actually turn one of the game, where they were basically there was a double or Articuno came in with the choice scarf from the Blaziken side, and they choice scarfed into freezing glare to deal a lot of damage into the Tauros, which was assault vest, and then there was a earthquake from the Palasoin. The Ninetales had a lot of bulk and was able to survive the earthquake at 1 HP, literally 1 HP, and that was pretty much the big thing. It's surviving there is what led to the Sun Warriors being able to actually win the game. Because after that, they were just had a lot of offensive pressure with onto the Blaziken side because the Blazikens didn't have speed control after the Choice Scarf Pokemon died on turn one. And then game two, there's definitely some interesting, I guess, sets on these sides. The Blazikens had a special Entei with Calm Mind and Leftovers,
Yeah.
and and I think the Blastoise had only body press is its only move with Iron Defense, which is very interesting going into a Pokemon into the Sun Warriors, whose most common Pokemon is Tapu Lele, which did quite a bit of work with its Life Orb this week.
No, yeah, for sure. But I kind of like the like because like if you think about the Sun Warriors team too, like when you have an Umbreon on the team, like it's so hard to rely on special attackers, and I know Blastoise can be physical, but like I think I don't know if that's what Ams was thinking about, but bringing a Blastoise and body pressing the Umbreon while it snarls could have been huge for him too. So or for the Blastoise. So I feel like I kind of like the idea of bringing the body press set on Blastoise this week, and then the set on the Entei. I feel like the there was I don't remember exactly when or how what was the position, but there was a position in the game where I feel like if they had gone with the Heat Wave, that would have been better than the Scorching Sands, but I don't remember exactly, so maybe I shouldn't talk about it. I remember when I was watching it, I was like, why didn't you Heatwave? Because I feel like Heatwave would have done a lot there. But anyway, it was really well played from both sides, in my opinion, too. Like there was it was not easy at all for the Sun Warriors, and they got a very very good win, 2-0 there, and that put them in a very good position.
Yeah, I think with that win they clinched playoffs and put them in very good position to win their division.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely an interesting match. I know I was watching it, I think, on the Sun Warrior sides, and there was like many points where like the Iron they felt like their Umbreon choice was bad because to bring the Umbreon game two because they had the Blastoise with Iron Defense, and I think the Sun Warriors ended up getting a lucky crit killing the Blastoise, so preventing it from being able to survive to do damage into the Umbreon. And
Yeah.
it was definitely a pretty close match with some pretty interesting Pokemon brought, or like sets of the
The
Pokemon.
Blastoise had Yawn too, right? So
Yes,
in game one, they just clicked Yawn to not reveal the sets, if I'm not mistaken.
yes,
And
they
then game two was it, it, it did some work.
yeah, it definitely did. I guess with that we can go to the next one, which is the Norwegian Darmanitans versus Rebellion. I think this is another game that did not have a video at all. I have some notes from the game, but basically, we see that it looks like the Darmanitans led Incineroar Metagross game one and swept with them with those two Pokemon, and then game two, it seemed like a lot closer of a game, and I think the looked like the Darmanitans led the same lead. But didn't have as much success, and then kind of swept in the back with Sarina and Hippowdon.
Yeah.
Definitely sad to not see the
Yeah.
game. What were you saying?
I just said we can only guess.
Yeah,
We know for sure, but that I think that was a good guess.
yeah, exactly. I'm definitely a little bit sad to not see as many matches from the Darmanitans. They're a very good player, and they did
Yeah.
very well last season. And they've been having a little bit of rough season this season. Um, but I've only seen like, I feel like I've only seen half their games because I feel like they've had a lot of matches that didn't have videos.
No, for sure. Yeah. We miss Colopsia.
Yeah, they're also not in chat much nowadays. That's also pretty sad. But I get to play them this week, so we'll see how that goes for me. Um, with that, we can go to the next match, I guess, which is
Yep.
the MK Mimikyus versus the South Croydal Soars. So what do you think of this match?
So this was a weird one. Like I always feel like when you're bringing like a team that is like hard sun, and that's what the the Croydon Source brought to this game. Like you should have a fail safe plan for when the opposing team wants to take advantage of it, because like I feel like the fail safe plan that they had was like Scorching Sands, Charizard, and Earth Power Venusaur against the Chandelure, and it was hard because Chandelure was doing a lot to the entire team. Um, it was Specs Chandelure, but even with the tricks from Liper, it didn't help as much. Like even like it was probably like modest Chandelure doing like heat waves and shadow balls into the entire team, like very very oppressive, and felt like for a Hardsome team, like there was a moment where like if they set up the Sun and switching the Venusaur, but like it's an awkward situation, right? Because yeah, you're guaranteeing speed control, but you're also making your opponent's Pokemon that much stronger too. So I feel like when you play like hard weather like that, you have to have a way to counter like whatever like people try to exploit your weather. So I feel like they failed to do that, and they got punished.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think another difficulty I think that was on the sides of the SARS were that they didn't really seem to have a great answer to Trick Room.
Yeah.
either. And so the SARS game one, they ironballed or tricked an ironball into the Chandelure, but the Mimikyus brought a um, Whimsicott that had both Tailwind and Trick Room. And
Yeah.
so at some point they just click Trick Room, and it's like, yeah, now you gave my Chandelure better speed control. And then like similarly, as I think at a certain point they had the sun up and Trick Room with a Venusaur, and so Venusaur was in this awkward situation where it was outspeeding Whimsicott in Trick Room.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely some of the something interesting. And game one and two were very like Trick Room centric, and then game three, the Mimikyu switched it up and went with their Tailwind idea and did Tailwind Starmie or Whimsicott with Tailwind and Starmie as their lead, and that took the SARS off guard and kind of did like a massive number of kills and huge advantage with the Starmie.
Yeah, for sure. And the Starmie had like expanding forces, like probably predicting the Indeedee to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like this is another thing that's interesting. Like when you make a team where you have one of your strongest mons is, but I guess in this case it's fine because Venusaur wasn't that high of a in the tier list. So I think it's fine because I was just gonna say like it's hard because you know that the opponent has a Starmie and you know your grass Pokemon is weak to Psychic. So like if you bring your Indeedee, you're making your Mon like more vulnerable to the thing that it's supposed to counter.
Yeah.
But in general, like I feel like the prep from Mimikyu's side was really solid. Like with the Golisopod was really cool with the room service. The Whimsicott having Trick Room and not relying on the Porygons to set Trick Room was really smart because like one of the ways that the Source had to counter the Trick Room was Sleep Powder on Venusaur, but that wouldn't work on Whimsicott. So I feel like that was really well prepped.
And so the SARS ended up getting their win game two basically with a sleep powder into the Chandelure, and then getting I think a 3-turn sleep, and that ended up having the game went, because if it had a 1-turn sleep and it got a heat wave off, I think
Yeah,
the Mimikyu's 2-0 there.
for sure.
Okay, I think it's time to go to the next one, which is the Los Angeles Infernapes versus the Luxury Uxie. So this was a 3-game set, and the Infernapes get their second win of the season, and also the Uxies still haven't gotten their first win. I guess I can start. I know game one, or so basically, the Uxies seemed like they really wanted to lean into their Hell mode. They did their Aurorus and a little bit Sandslash, and that seemed like one of their main offensive threats this week, or like their main like plans. And the Infernapes had Cloud9 Licky Licky, which pretty much single handedly crushed their Hell mode, because not only did it prevent the Hell advantages, it also had Body Press, which is 4 times super effective into both of them.
Yep.
So I think that's kind of the big thing. And then not only that, they also had not only that, the Infernapes also had Cobalion, which also is very good into both of them because it has 4 times stab super effective damage into both of them and resist their ice coverage. So I don't know if that was like a bold decision on the Uxie side, or maybe a miss decision on like the Pokemon to bring, but it seemed like the Infernapes had very hard counters to one of their main components.
Yep.
But yeah, other than that, I think pretty much kind of the Pokemon I was mentioning kind of led to the wins for the Infernapes. And game one, I think the Infernapes kind of misplayed. They had a pretty clean win and ended up not doing it. They
Yep.
I think they had fake tears into a Shadow Ball into a Sandslash, but instead they decided to do a physical ghost attack, and
Yeah.
didn't get the kill where the Shadow Ball would have easily killed.
Yeah, especially because I think the Sandslash is way weaker on the special defensive side, so
Yes.
that would have been much better. But yeah, I enjoyed this match too. Like the Lick Lick is a mon that I always I always like. I even drafted it in VBA and immediately ended up training it up because um I mean I always think it's good in theory, but I never bring it in practice, and it's cool to see it doing work, like coming to counter the opposing weather. It was really cool. Came in on 3 matches, and I got like I think 3 KOs. So yeah, I kind of like this match too, and I agree with everything you said. Like it felt like the Infernips had really good counters to the mode that the Uxis chose to come to bring.
Sounds good. Now we get the final match of the week, and it was the Georgia Gurchens versus the Bolton Bashers, which was a very close game and it was very fun. So, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so this match was really cool. Like you know, like Goomer keeps bringing the heat more. Like I already talked about heat more a couple of times that it's someone that I really don't like, but Goomer keeps bringing it and it keeps working really well for him. So it's very interesting to see. But like the to me the start of the match was Persian. It was such a cool set that Goomer brought. Like I never expected to see Persian KOing anything ever, and it got a really cool KO on the onto shift tree with the U-turn. I know it's 4 times effective, but still, like it's a Persian. It's not even stabbed, so it's like it was very interesting to see the Persian getting a KO there. And the other thing is the Swampert, like doing a lot of work and like these 4 times weakness mons, sometimes they get a really bad rep because like it probably dies to any energy ball or grass knot or whatever. But like if you don't have a grass move for it, like you're gonna have a hard time dealing with it. So it becomes like a game of removing the grass coverage from the field so my Swampert can sweep. And they actually did really well. Like I basically got 3 KOs in game one and then 2 KOs in game three. Didn't really do as much in game two, but um, was very dominant performance by the Swampert.
Well, talking about 4 times weaknesses, though, Swampert did tank a solar beam in this set.
Yeah.
So even though it has a 4 times weakness, it still can take some of those pretty well if you train it defensively or if your opponent doesn't have the most offensive Pokemon. But yeah, I definitely agree that the Persian was good, but I definitely thought the Swampert was the most impressive. I think the one of the kind of the big things with the Gurchens is that they had a choice scarf Zapdos, and at some point in Game Three, it kind of came down to the Bashers trying to get that by itself with Swampert in the end, and the Amnesia Heatmore did a lot of work because a lot of the major threats on the Gurchin side this week were special, and so it got a single Amnesia boost on the Heatmore. Made it really hard for the opposing Pokemons to deal much damage to it because I think it had leftovers with in addition to Amnesia, and it
Yeah.
had Fire Spin, which offensively didn't do a huge amount of damage, but the residual damage and not being able to switch out did a lot of work and led to awkward situations with specifically the Zapdos in game two. Um, game three, I mean, and game two, I think was a very interesting one. And it came down to this really interesting end game, which basically came to whether or not Goomer was going to protect or not, and they ended up missing the 50-50 read, and the Gurchens ended up getting there by setting
Yeah.
up Trick Room.
For sure. Yeah, and the other thing about this match that was really cool to see is like both coaches bringing like their all-in game plans. Like in game one, I think like Goomer went with Screech and Iron Tail, like two very inaccurate moves, and I feel like the Gurchens used the Hurricane on Zapdos, and like I think they missed 3 times, like
Oh yeah.
scarfing into a 70% accurate move can lead to that. But it was interesting to see both coaches like risking everything with their initial plays.
Oh yeah, no, those were definitely some big ones that I'm glad you mentioned because yeah, those were like such it was such a interesting turn one with the Screech Iron Tail, and it was also that the triple Hurricane Miss was crazy. That's one of the big reasons why, though Zapdos I think is a great Pokemon. I'm not a huge fan of it personally because I think it's I hate inaccurate moves, and so I definitely can feel the pain of those inaccurate moves missing.
Yep.
Is there anything else about the matches you want to talk about?
I think that's it.
Okay, so those are all the matches, and I guess we can get into the rankings for the week. So first at number 24th, we have the Massachusetts Manitons. So the Manitons are 0-7. They've only won a single game. That's kind of the big reason that they're down here. They've had a little tough season. I think they kind of went with a very experimental team and try to make some transitions and haven't had the most success.
No, yeah, for sure. It's unfortunate though. Like Dak was a really good player, like, from previous seasons, and like I know he's struggling with this team because it feels like he drafted a team that he's not comfortable with, and sometimes it's a learning curve. Like you have to start learning to play how what's the best way to play those modes that you got, even though it's not in your comfort zone. Like you have to learn how to do that, and I feel like this season was so competitive that he didn't have the time or the matches to be able to do that. So I feel like that's what has brought him down.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Yeah, let's go up to the next one, which is number 23, the Luxury Uxie. They are also in 7. They have a couple more wins. So yeah, they've definitely had a little tough season. They took over for Toots, I think week 3 or week 4, I can't remember exactly. And so
Yeah.
they haven't been here the entire season, but they definitely had some close matches.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, they made some interesting transactions too for the team when they inherited it. Uh, but yeah, it's it's hard. It's hard. I don't know if they had played this format before, but feels like like mons like Colossal and um, even the hail modes that they decided to get. They're not as good as they are in Dynamax. So I don't know if again I don't know if they already had played this format before, but it feels like the some of the ones they have are better ones for Dynamax formats, and I feel like this is not helping.
Yeah, possibly I'm not sure, but they definitely I think had a like I said they had a really close match against the Tyranitar Sauces earlier. They had a pretty close match against the Infernapes, but definitely a little bit tough, especially draft or having a team that you didn't really draft yourself is always
Yeah,
difficult. So let's go to the
that
next
was
one.
hard. Yep.
Number 22 is the Los Angeles Infernape. They are 2-5. They won the last 2 weeks, so they're definitely having a pretty good streak. They ended up beating me. Other than that though, they definitely had a pretty rough start. This is, I think, their first draft league as a doubles player. And
Yeah.
so you could definitely tell that they had a pretty big learning curve if you watch the first couple of matches. And you can see that they've also gotten better as this league has gone on. But they definitely had some tough losses, but they've been getting there in the last 2 weeks.
No, yeah, for sure, and yeah, it is a learning curve. Like coming from singles background to doubles draft and straight into the VDL, it's like you're gonna have a hard time. Like there is no way. Like I had a hard time, and I was coming from uh, already a doubles background, and I had a really hard time my first few matches in the VDL when I joined. So, like, rest assured, someone coming from a singles background is gonna have a hard time too. So, it's been really cool to see him improving and playing better each week. But yeah, it's still a learning curve into the format.
Yeah. So let's go up next. Next is 21, which is Rebellion. So they are no, they have 2 wins. I don't know. So they had a pretty good start of the season. I think they started off 2-0 or maybe 2-1. I can't remember exactly, but I know they were very high ranked early on in the season, and since then they've kind of had a pretty bad last couple of last 3 or 4 weeks. Um, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Do you have any thoughts on them other than that?
Yeah, I think like it is an interesting team, and Lucian is a really good player and really offensive player for the most part. I feel like this team is not. I mean, even though it has a good run, it's not classic rebellion team. Like it is much less offensive than his teams usually are. At least from what I understand. Like you have a team date Arcanine, you have like the Appleton, you have the Blissey. These are not offensive mons at all, and even the Wheezing, like if you look at the offense of the team, it's not really glaring, which is not usual for Lucian's team. So I feel like again, it might be a playing with a team that you're not used to kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Like he started really well, and then kind of had some tough losses.
Yeah, that's fair. But Rebellion's a great coach. They were like what in second or first in the regular season last season. So they definitely can do well. And hopefully being 21 is not doesn't feel too bad for them. So let's go to the next one. We get number 20. It is the Norwegian Darmanitans, who are 2-5 right now.
Yeah, yeah. Norwegian Tournaments is like we all know. Like this is a former champion, right? Like he was the guy who won the mini tour that we had before this season to determine who was gonna represent the VDL. So he's a stellar coach. I feel like he just didn't have as much time this season to prep and play, so he's definitely been off his game. But he still got like 2 wins, and he beat Gumi in the regular season. So I feel I mean, there's if you're going against this team, even if it's like 2-5 right now, you're still gonna be scared of it because it's Kalopsa. He's a really good player. The team is scary. Like if you look at these mons, like a lot of like probably like 10 really solid mons and one mon that can do a lot of work, like with with the synergy he brings to the team.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah. So one of the big things about the Darmanitans is like they had some bad luck in the first couple of their matches, and then they definitely seemed maybe a little bit like they were a little bit busy or a little bit out of it in the middle ones, and then they had the last 2 weeks they've won. And sadly, we haven't seen their matches for the last 2 weeks. So I really wanted to see if it's like if they were playing really well, and kind of if they're back to their old selves, or or if they just had good matchups. And I'm very curious on that. We definitely all in the video like to see when Globsia does well.
yeah, for sure.
Let's go up number 19, which is the Arcanines, who had a really tough loss this last week. They really close, and they are now 2-5. They had a slight chance of making playoffs if they would have won out, but with that loss, they pretty much this team and everything below are pretty much guaranteed out of the
Yeah.
playoffs. They have an amazing team. They had some incredibly close matches against some really good players, and just kind of pretty much all those 50-50s or 70-30s or things like that. They lost almost all of them except that sheer cold in the previous week.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts on the team?
Yeah, no, so this team I feel like was one of the teams that got the worst schedule, like being new to the VDL and like already playing like, Gumi, me, Tyler, like coaches who have been in the VDL for so long, and I already know the format because we already played it last season. Already know the the way the way the tier list works with like being a little bit low power. So I feel like I think Dan got completely surprised or caught off guard in the first few matches, and he started really behind because he lost like I think it was like he went to 0-3 or something, and like it's tough to recover after so many losses because even when you're prepping, like you have to start trying to prep even safer, like you can take risks, and
I
that usually
I was gonna
leads
say.
to
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I think they actually started 04.
yeah, might have been. So yeah, it's hard because like when you go 0-4, like, and you have to prep for your fifth match, like you can take risks, and this leads to less surprising prep, which ends up helping the opponent to predict what you're gonna do. So it's tough, like going 0-4, and it's really hard to come back.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And I'm currently lost the last 2 games in a row, and I already feel that. So I can hardly imagine losing 4 games in a row.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go next. Next is the 18th team, which is the Sussex Stabilizers, who are 2-5. The Stabilizers, if everyone remembers, had their team kind of drafted by their significant other. So it's a little bit of a, as a meme-ish of a team, but they have done a lot of work with it. They've had some really impressive games and some really hard, like really sad losses that they probably could have won or maybe even should have won. Um, they played very well, and they've definitely had some Pokemon that I definitely would not have expected to do as much work that did really good work, namely like the Jigglypuff and the Crawdon.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Like it is like a team that was built in a meme way, but if you look at the pieces of the team, like of course not counting the Jigglypuff, even though the Jigglypuff has been surprising. You like a lot of mons here are really good. Like Spectre is amazing. Like the Persian is really good. The Mudsdales, I love Mudsdale. Then you have Nido Queen, another great mon. Like the pieces of the team are solid, even though like they maybe are not the most sound composition. They individually are pretty good pieces, and it's been really cool to see like Sam using these, Jigglypuff and Crawdont, and even the Rose Raid, which is another mon that I, I, I never think highly of, doing a lot of work. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a cool season by Sam. Even though he's playing with a meme team, he's doing you know he has been having really good matches.
Mm-hmm. So that's the top of the 2-5 teams. Now the bottom of the 3-win teams, and it's me, number 17. 3-4 -4. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much to say about it. I say like I definitely deserve this spot at the bottom. I've had a lot of bad losses, and I had 0 good wins. Most of my wins have been like barely winning or winning off of a little bit of luck or winning off of, a 50-50 play. And so I definitely feel like I'm lucky to be 3-4 right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's always very hard to do well with monotype teams, and like you seem to always manage to get your like wins and playoff contention every time with monotype teams. So it's very interesting to see like a team like that to do work and win, even though the wins have been you know thin. Like I still think you've played really well throughout the season, and even when you lost, you played well most of the time, and the games have been always very interesting because you see opposing teams like last game, like there was offensive rebombi. Like people bring these things that you don't usually see because of the nature of the team. So I feel
Yeah.
like that's that leads to always interesting matches.
Oh, I agree. It definitely leads to a lot of interesting sets, to say the least, on my opponent's side, and definitely one of the hard things about prepping on my side. I definitely, I'm definitely a little bit sad because I was 3-2 2 weeks ago, and I definitely feel like I had a pretty reasonable chance to make playoffs, and now, spoiler alerts, I'm officially impossible to make playoffs.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's go to the next one, which is number 16, and it is the Drowsy Dracozols. Yeah, the Dracozols 3-4 plus 0. They're definitely in contention for a playoff spot right now. They they played really well against me, and overall their team is a very strange team, but it's a very bulky team and pretty hard team to kind of deal with if you don't have the ability to either stall it or do a lot of offensive pressure.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like Masenko has been doing a really good job of bringing unexpected things like Joy Scarf Pangoro and, like odd, odd sets in general that have been surprising his opponents. Like the Moody auxiliary, like, setting up by switching in and staying in the field, like the body press, iron defense, shell armor, Turtonator. Like, there has been he has been bringing interesting sets every week, and I feel like he managed to pilot this team, which I think was pretty low ranked in the beginning, in the week zero power rankings, and he's been doing incredible work with it. Yeah, even though it's strange, he's been able to surprise his opponents with it at least.
And another thing is, like, a lot of people looking at the team were like, "Oh, it's very Trick Room centric," and they actually haven't brought Trick Room that much either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, apparently, like, he already starts from the principle that people are gonna bring trick room counters, and he plans his game plan around that. So he doesn't bring trick room at itself uh, for this team, but he exploits the fact that people are gonna hard counter the trick room to surprise them. At least that's how I feel he's been playing
Hmm.
and prepping.
Oh, so let's go up to number 15. Number 15 is the Pogi Porygons. We haven't seen their match, but I think they actually they started off, I think, 3-0. So I think they are at a 4-game losing streak. And so it's definitely been a little bit tough. We didn't get to see their match, but they definitely have an interesting team. And I think and one of the things that Saki likes to mention on his power rankings was their fire water grass core is very good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they definitely had a little hard streak stretch, and I definitely imagine that they might just be in a situation where you know they're kind of having a little mental difficulties getting over this losing streak.
No, for sure. Yeah, and it's that thing, right? Like, you lose the first, you lose the second, then you start to second guess every decision. So might have been that, but yeah, they had a good start and have gone down from there. It's unfortunate because the team is cool. Like, you look at these mons, like, I think every mon here is something that I draft myself. So I it's interesting to see the team composition, and I agree with Saki. Like, the Firewater Grass core is so powerful. It's unfortunate to see they having a hard time finding their way through to playoffs.
Yeah. So let's get to the top half of the people's. No, yeah, top half. No, whatever. 2014th. The South Croydon Sawyers. They're 3-4 at plus 0, so they're definitely in contention for the playoffs still. They had a close set, but a loss this last week. And they have this one of the big ones that I think like people like to mention and kind of point out is they have this like pretty notable like fire core that they like, but their only sunsetter is the light part, which is definitely a little bit strange, but they definitely have done good work with the fire core and their trick room package.
Yeah, for sure. I think they had really really good matches. I mean, they do have this weakness that I feel like was very exposed last game, which is like they don't have too many fire answers. So, like, if they set up sun for them and their opponent exploits that, you don't have like fire resists at all on this team, aside from the wishy washy there. So it's a little bit of hyper offensive team. You know, like you have to like set up Sun and gain momentum and like take advantage of it as much as you can, because if your opponent has Sun themselves or has fire type themselves, they can, you know, rack you back. So, but you know, three and four is not bad. They still have their their final match to be played, and or actually I think they already played. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's an interesting team.
So let's get it to number 13, which is the Summerville Scragglies. This is the lowest of the 4-3 teams. They're 4-3 plus 2.
Yep.
They had a pretty convincing win against Taco. Um, and I personally am a really big fan of their team. I like their team from the very beginning. I put it pretty high. Their stat line has been doing really well, especially with with sand and and then their NDD Slow King packages have been pretty good too. Um, you know, they're definitely the driver's seat of whether or not they make playoffs with this next week, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've always liked this team too. I was one of the teams that I lost to during the season. And yeah, it's very hard to prep against. Has, you know, good value on like most of the picks. And like indeed is broken. Like there is no two ways about it. Like it's very very strong. So it's a really good team, and it's gonna be interesting to see if he makes playoffs.
Yep, I'm excited to see their final match and to see who makes playoffs. Let's get up to number 12, which is the Beantown Barnacles or Binacles.
Yeah.
Binacles had a pretty good win. They definitely, I think they're another team that was 3-0, had 3 losses, and then just finally broke out of their stump this week. I think they're playing against, I want to say, um, the Bashers this week, and that's going to be a big deciding factor of who makes playoffs.
Yep. Yeah, this team is great too. Like, I already talked about this, but like he's been doing really well with mons like Barascuda and Laurentis, which are mons that I usually I didn't I don't usually value as highly in draft formats, but I'm starting to because of the way he's been playing with them. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's really good performance so far.
yeah, and then Raichu is just such a good Pokemon if you have Tapu Koko.
Yeah.
It's like it's so much value for its tiering when you have the terrain.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's the fastest fake out, right?
Yeah, well, yeah,
So that's already very very huge value, and it does have like encore and feint too, if I'm not mistaken, which is really good because if your opponent, you know, perhaps with protect or something, some sort of protection move for the to stop the fake out, you can be very 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 hardly punished with a feint or even the encore in next turn. So it is a very threatening one.
Okay, so let's go up to next, which is number 11, the Welsh Laidlords. The Wellers got got their win, and like most of the teams that are in these 4-3 spots, they're in a pretty good position to possibly make playoffs. They dominated me when we played, and their team is definitely pretty scary.
Yeah, and it's got really really like a lot better with the addition of the Raichu, right? Like I feel like the team like went from, I don't know, a 7 to a 9, like on a scale from 1 to 10 in my opinion, with the addition of the Raichu, because it protects the finish so well, you know, and it gives a very fast fake out for the setup Fini or the setup Flygon. Um, so I feel like it was a very very good addition to the team.
Yeah, yeah. I think previously they added Flygon and Raichu for more Pico and Drampa, which I think
Yep.
both of those are huge upgrades.
Yeah. Huge.
But with that, I guess we can go to the next one, which is number 10, which is the Bolton Bashers. Bolton Bashers 4-3 as well. Like I said, I think they're playing the Binacles this week, if I remember correctly. They're playing another 4 team, if not specifically Binacles, and the winner of that is guaranteed a playoff spot. You know, the Bashers have been doing quite well. They've had a lot more success with Heat more than I was expecting. Um, their Dracozold has been surprisingly disappointing, but Heatmore, Gyarados, Swampert, Persian have been doing a lot of work.
Yeah, for sure. The other one that I've been longing to see more of has been the Hydreigon. I don't even know if I'm actually looking at the site now to see if, because I don't remember
So
seeing game
they bought it.
Hydreigon.
I think they brought it one game or one set, and I think it ended up getting 0 kills. That's that. I want to say it was maybe week 2 or week 3.
Yeah, could have been. I'm trying to find it here. But yeah, it's another one that I think it could be really really strong, and it's interesting that it doesn't come as much. Yeah, it was brought like 2 times. I think it was one set, like you're saying. Yeah.
But
So yeah, this is another one that it's interesting. Like you know, the everything on the team, like Persian came much more than the Hydreigon. The Heatmore came a lot. Like I basically always coming to matches. So I'm interested to see what the Hydreigon's gonna do with for this team.
yeah, I'm interested as well. Hydreigon's definitely one of those Pokemon that I was curious about, possibly on my team,
Yeah,
but ended up obviously not getting it, and sadly it hasn't seen much play, and so maybe I'll see a little bit more play this week or in playoffs if the Bashers can make it.
yeah. Maybe they're saving it for playoffs.
Might be a little bit bold for a team that
Yeah,
needs a win to make playoffs. Okay, so with that, let's go to number 9. This is the Royal Kingdras. The Royal Kingdras are 4-3 plus 5. Like I said, they have a really good differential. Um, I believe that with this differential, they actually are guaranteed to make playoffs, even if they lose this week, because they've had so many kind of 2-0 wins. And basically, the big Pokemon that have been, doing the most work on the team has been the Registeel, the Scrafty, and the Reuniclus.
yeah,
So I think those are the big ones that have been like doing a lot of heavy lifting on their team.
yeah. And again, this team has a few bonds that haven't come at all. Like the Jolteon hasn't come to any matches. Um, like Fletchling, but that makes sense. And the Marshtomp again makes sense. I
Yeah.
think Marshtomp was a late addition to the team too. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
yeah, the core of Registeel, Togepi, Scrafty, and the Reuniclus has been very very difficult for opponents to deal with, and it's been doing a lot of work. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Registeel is incredible, right? Like you look at the it's like 15-1. That's an incredible record for the kill difference.
Yeah, it was a really big last week that Registeel got its first death of the season, which was crazy that it took him that long for a Pokemon that was brought as many times as it was.
Yeah, and if you look at this Crafty has been impressive too. I don't know if I remember a Scrafty doing so well, like 15-6. Like there's a lot of kills for a Scrafty.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely has been good. Like I said, that the big core, like I said, on the screen, Registeel, Scrafty, Reuniclus have all been really, really impressive, and so the team has definitely been a little bit top heavy, but it has worked out really well for them.
Yep.
So let's go. Number 8, we have the MK Minikus, which is the first 5-win team. And every team that has 5-win, I believe, has actually guaranteed playoff spots. The Mimikus this season have been doing pretty well and pretty impressive. I don't know. One thing is like every time I watch them, they definitely have just like their games feel so strange to me. Like their team is like I'd say has like this strange gameplay or like play that leads to these matches that seem so unpredictable to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Um, and yeah, this. I've played them in another league before. Like they definitely bring interesting and creative game plans every time. Like doesn't it's never a very straightforward plan. and they have like one of the best mons for this kind of playstyle, which is Whimsicott on their team, right? Like it can do so many things that it's very hard to predict what they're gonna do. But yeah, it's a really good team. They've made some transactions that is not
Yeah.
uh, shown here at the moment.
Yeah,
Like they
I was
got a
about to say that. I think they got rid of the Executor, the
yeah,
Stonejourner, and the whatever baby Manitobans.
yep.
uh,
They got a
I,
man didn't use yet. They got a Galarian Corsola.
uh,
We'll see. But yeah, this team has been doing really well.
uh, but yeah, and and hopefully they can do some good work in playoffs. Next is number 7, the Brisbane Blazikins. Blazikins had a little bit tough loss this week. That loss puts them in a position where they might not win their division, which they were in very good position if they did win the position win that game.
Yeah.
Um, the team is very good. I think they've definitely have been you know very like they have very high usage on some of their higher tier Pokemon, namely Clefable, Rotom, Entei. I think those Pokemon have come a lot, and they've been doing a lot of work for them.
Yep.
In addition, like they made a couple of transactions throughout the seasons. I think adding Articuno, adding Scyther, and their teams, looking very good.
No, I completely agree. They also have like one of the strongest Fire Regress cores in the league, and complementing that with Clefable, it's like you could literally bring these four mons like to any match, and they would do work.
Well, yeah, I
Of
think at
course,
some point we were joking that that's all they did at the beginning of the season.
yeah, like and you could actually do it because it's synergetically so they work so well together that like you can have the Clefable with the Shell Smash Blastoise or the Nasty Plot Rotom or even Eruption on the Entei, like if you want to do that, or the Water Spout on the Blastoise. So the redirection plus these three and the way that the three work with each other, it's super strong, and it's a very like dangerous team to go up against, and they've been doing really well with it.
Yeah. So let's continue on. Number 6 is the Shenandoah Sun Warriors, 5-2 plus 5. I think one of the big reasons they're above the Blazikins is they beat the Blazikins this week and they have a better record. The Blazikins have, I would say, one of the big things I've been impressed with this season is just the Ninetales has been so impressive as just a Pokemon. Normally, I kind of think about it, and I'm sure a lot of people think about it just as a Sunsetter, but it has very seldomly done it to support Sun for any other Pokemon other than itself, and it's just been a very impressive Pokemon.
For sure, like it doesn't surprise me too much because I was when I was planning my draft for the VBA, one of the ideas that I had was to bring to draft both Ninetales and Charizard. I only ended up getting the Charizard, but I had ran some calcs, and like I felt like the double heat wave was gonna be super oppressive, and Ninetales in the sun in this format with the heat waves can do a lot of work too, and it's fast, so it's gonna attack before many things, and basically work as a wall breaker. Like do a lot of damage for whatever is in the back to finish off. So it is a pretty good team, and Chad is a really good player. So I feel like they had a few bad games in the early of the season, but they then found their way.
Yeah, definitely. And and with that, I think they clinched their playoff spot, and they are, they've been looking good, and they're 6th overall right now.
Yep.
So let's continue up to number 5, which is the Georgia Gurchens. So the Gurchens started off 5-0, had a couple of transactions, and since then it's been 0-2. I don't know if it's necessarily the cause of the transactions, but they definitely had a pretty tough end of their schedule. So far, so far they've done a lot of work with their Meowstic and Zapdos, and they had a couple of tough matches where they had just barely ended up losing the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, they're still top of their division, and I think they're gonna be the division winners from there. And yeah, it's been interesting. Like this is a team that has brought everything so far to every match. To, not to every match, but to like the whole squad came to at least one match. So this is always interesting to see. And when you're prepping for this team and you look at these stats, it makes it harder because you can't really safely predict what's coming or what's not coming.
Well, yeah, and it's even more impressive given the fact that they made 4 of those Pokemon were new starting in I think week 6.
Yep. No, yeah, for sure. Like everything already came. Like if you look at the stats, everything has at least one match brought. So that I always like seeing that and I feel like they use the mons really well. Like the Zapdos has been really well used. Even the Regis Ice, that's not something that you see as commonly, has done work for them. So it's a very very strong team and gonna be interesting to see what they're gonna do in playoffs.
Definitely agree. All right, let's go up to number 4. Number 4 is the Old English Eskies. The Eskies had, a loss to the Tyrannitars this last week, which was their fight for the number 1 in the division. Other than that, they've had a really good, really good season. Their team has a lot of really bulky Pokemon, but also has a pretty good number of, pretty offensive threats or really fast threats like their bug Pokemon. And with Fake Out, Trick Room, they definitely have a good package.
No, yeah, for sure. Um, I completely agree, and this is a team that didn't have a good placement in the week 0 PR, and I feel like they showed that the team is actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a lot of work with everything here. Like the Credile has been really good for them. The what is it called? The metal bird here. I forgot the name.
Skarmory, yeah.
Skarmory does has had some incredible games. So yeah, it's a really good team, and it's really cool to see Gert doing really well.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the top 3. Number 3 is you. You're the highest 5-2 team, and I think it's well deserved. I put you here. I think I've been very impressed with you this season. You had your only loss was against. You have 2 losses. One against Gumi, which as you mentioned a little bit earlier, you kind of weren't 100% trying to come up with the optimal game plan. You kind of were trying to mix them up a little bit. And then your other loss to Tyler was an incredibly close match, which probably could have gone your way without an unlucky crit.
Yeah, yeah. No, my team. I really like it. It's not the strongest team, but I really like what it offers, like in terms of tools. And this is like something that I've tried to change in my drafting. Like instead of drafting just for power, I've been trying to draft for tools more often. And I feel like this team has a lot of tools. Like I haven't been able to use like even half of them, or have even half of the things that I've thought about when I was drafting this team. I've used them. I used a few of them. More like the Thunder Wave onto the Thunderers was something that I hadn't had the opportunity to use, so I basically started using it even when it didn't matter, just to use them. But yeah, I really like my team, and I think I've done enough with them to get to playoffs, and that was my basic number one goal in this regular season, and then in playoffs, um, just have to try to make my way to the finals.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do.
I don't know. You definitely have had a lot of, I'd say, impressive wins, like wins in which I feel like you were in very commanding position, and that's one of the reasons why I think you're pretty highly ranked. And then obviously, if you look at your history, you're also one of the most decorated players in the league as well. So it's kind of hard to doubt your skill.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how well I can do now that I think it's the first time I'm gonna play the wild card round in playoffs. So we'll see how well I do.
So now we're at the top 2, the only 6-win teams, and we start with Tyranitar Sauces. The Sauces, with their win, are pretty much like very likely to be able or to get first in their division. They have a really good team. They've been playing really well. Their only loss is against me, and I would say I was lucky to beat them.
Yeah, no, this team is very, very strong. Like Saki is a really good player, and he drafts really, really well. Like this team is very solid, and he's been doing incredible with it. Um, he had that one loss to you, and yeah, ever since they didn't win, they didn't lose anymore. So they're doing really well.
Yeah, I felt a little bad about the loss because I felt like I didn't quite earn it. But now that they're 6-1, I'm like, I deserved it.
Yeah, yeah. You already have too many wins. Let me have one.
Yeah. But okay. Anyways, well, unsurprisingly, number one is the Rolled Gold Pretzels, who are 6-1 +8. This was probably the closest rankings for number one we had yet so far. It was very, very close, but Gumi ended up winning. Partially probably because they beat you, Otto, and you're one of the most impressive, not 5-win teams, and so and I I think that might be one of the big reasons. But they've been doing really well with their torn chomp and Sharpedo.
Yeah, no, it's he's doing really well with this team. Like he always said like, oh, Torn Trump is broken, and he's been so far proving that he was right. Um, and yeah, apart from a few ideas that he's been, you know, using from sets that I've been playing with Garchomp in VBA, he's been doing really well with the team.
Uh, So with that, we can see here is the final rankings for all the teams. But we do have one more slide after this, unlike our previous slides, which we have the rankings. So here we go. We can see the rankings. So kind of if you look at the top of each of these, we can see that so far most of the teams in top have clinched, or pretty much every 5-win team has clinched playoffs. Every 16-win team has clinched playoffs. And the big ones to look at are in the yellow, which are going to be the Welsh Laidlords, the Royal Kingdras, the Bolton Bashers, the Beatown Binacles, and then if you look down below the Beantown Barnacles, which is the Summerville Scraggies, those teams are all in control of their own destiny. If they win, they are guaranteed to make playoffs. If they lose, they might not make playoffs. The only team that is guaranteed playoffs is the Royal Kingdras, and so with this, you can kind of see the lowest of those teams would be the Welsh Laidlords. If they lose 0-2, they'll be 4-4 -1. And so 4-4 -1 is the lowest team can make the playoffs now. And so that's kind of the short. So some of the teams below that could make it would be the Drowsy Dracozolts, the South Croydon SARS, and those are kind of the big ones that can possibly make it. And the Pogi Porygons can as well, but all of those kind of need a little bit of luck, and the other ones, all the other 4-win teams can win can make it just by winning.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be an interesting week 8.
Yeah,
Has been interesting week 8, I should say.
Well, yeah. So definitely, we have a couple that we've seen so far, and they've been interesting. But with that, I think that's all we have. Anything else you want to say before we're done?
No, that's it. It was cool to do it, to be part of the PR rankings here.
Yeah, and I hope everyone enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.